Hi, welcome to another mentoring moment. I'm Dr. Berin Gilfillan, and we're in a series called The Power Principles of Life. They all begin with the letter P, and this principle that we're going to be covering today is called the power of the personal touch. I'm just going to start with a story out of Australia. I remember when Reinhard was doing some meetings, I believe it was in Melbourne, and, he was praying in the morning right before this big meeting he was supposed to have in the evening. And while he was praying, he felt the Lord say to him, I want you tonight to call out a young man by the name of John. And Reinhard sort of, came back to the Lord and said, Lord, every third person in Australia is called John. The people are going to say, that's really a safe word from the Lord. And he was sort of like, pushing back on it. And the Lord said to him, look, I can't change his name. His name is John. And so Reinhard just decided to be obedient to it, but he didn't know that morning there was a mother that had a 16-year-old son. And the son had gone away from God, and the mother said to the son, "If you come tonight to the meeting, God showed me that God's going to call you out by name." And so the son said to the mother, "If God calls me out by name, my life will belong to Him." And so he came that night, and Reinhard felt a little bit foolish. He said, the Lord just told me tonight to call out a young man by the name of John. And this young man just came forward weeping and crying and gave his heart to Jesus Christ. And the reason he did was because God personally called him out by name. God personally reached into his world. And, if God just said, there's a young person out there, no, your name is John. God knew him by name. God knew him personally. There is such tremendous power when you understand the power of the personal touch, the power that happens when you reach out and touch another life. Now, just looking at the New Testament, and we look at probably the closest disciple to Jesus was John. There was Peter, James, and John. And John was the one the Bible says it was called the disciple whom Jesus loved. And he writes in 1 John, this is later in his life, he's one of the disciples that didn't actually get martyred. He lived a long life, and he was later in his life, he wrote this 1 John chapter 1. He said, "We proclaim to you the one who existed from the beginning, whom we have heard and seen. We saw him with our own eyes and touched him with our own hands. He is the word of life." Now, you got to understand that when God wanted to reveal himself to man, he became a man and he touched us. He touched humanity. He became touchable. He became real. He became somebody that the disciples were able to hang around and to actually reach out to and to actually have close interaction with. And that personal touch is what formed the foundation of the 12 apostles, and the foundation of the New Testament church was a personal touch. They say that the most beautiful word, obviously next to Jesus in the English language or any other language, is a person's own name. A person's name is personal. A person's own name. I have a name. My name's Berin, and I go to the shops, and there's never a keychain with my name on. There's never anything that has my name on it, and it's like I very seldom just get anything that's monogrammed that has my name, because it's such an uncommon name. Obviously, my wife Lisa, she has everything. There's all kinds of things that have her name on it, but the bottom line of it is that a person's name means tremendous amount to them. And I found in ministry and in life that, it's one thing to do a mass mailing or to do something else like that. But to me, when I personally address people, when I personally call somebody, I personally reach out to somebody, and I show that I really care for them, it has such tremendous impact. And I look at the New Testament, I look at the story of Zacchaeus, and I always remember Reinhard used to tell the story of how Zacchaeus was up in the tree. And if you know the story in Luke chapter 19, and Jesus comes along into Jericho, and he stops underneath that tree. He's a short guy, and he wants to see Jesus, and Jesus is sort of walking underneath the tree, and he looks up and he says, Zacchaeus, I want to be at your house today. I want to come to your home. He's a tax collector. He's a wealthy guy, and he climbs down this tree, and I'm sure he's wondering in his back, how did he know my name? How did he know I was there? And Reinhard just used to talk about how Zacchaeus was walking home with Jesus. Oh, Jesus knew my name. He knew my name. But then he suddenly realized, then he knows also I'm a crook. He also knows all the bad things that I've done. And he then, at that point, when he gets home, I'll just read you what Zacchaeus says to Jesus. It says, Zacchaeus stood, this is in Luke 19:8. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I'll give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I've cheated people on their taxes, I'll give it back to them 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. How did that happen? Personal name. Jesus just said, Zacchaeus. He never said, you need to repent. He never said any of those words. Jesus just spoke to him by name. And the fact that Zacchaeus knew that the God of the universe, just like that young man, John, he knew that if God knew his name and God called him out by name, God cared for him personally. And that is such a key to ministry. It's a key to life. It's a key to everything that we do. It's the reason why gift giving is so important. It's because, it's an expression of love. It's an expression of caring for somebody, to think about giving them something special. And that's a tremendous way of demonstrating a personal touch. I love what Amy Carmichael used to say, you can give without loving, but you cannot love without giving. And it's just such a powerful statement, Amy Carmichael. And, when it comes to, even the Christmas letters, we send out a newsletter each year, and it goes out to our partners. We have, many thousands of people that have been a part of the ISOM and done things. And I used to just send out an email blast, but at the same time, I realized that, we got very little response from that, and it wasn't very effective. And I began to realize that I needed to actually personalize. And I began a number of years ago. I took our newsletter and I decided I'm going to write the address myself. I'm going to put the stamp on myself. I'm going to put my address, my personal home address. And then I began to just, within the newsletter, I just began to write a personal a note and something that I would think through. And it would take me hours and hours to do. But to me, writing to 50 to 100 people each year has far more impact and has had far more results than 1,000, 10,000 a blast of a letter that's generic and that has no personal touch to it. And personal touch has become used now by marketing, all of the social media, even in the political realm. There are few networks used to control all the news and the narrative, but now all news is personalized. All news comes to you. You go into wherever you like to get news. You like to go to this podcast or to this type of a news source. And news has diversified. And a lot of people realize that, you're not going to win elections anymore unless you can personalize your message to the people that you're trying to reach. Just to say this in terms of practical application, that, statistics, and I've studied church growth and I've studied, church planting and all those type of things, that I discovered that over 80% of all the people who go to a church, they don't go there because of a crusade. They don't go there because of some media outreach or anything like that. Over 80% of everybody that goes to a new church goes there because a friend or a family member invite them. It's a personal touch. It's a personal relationship. And so instead of us spending so much money on advertising and everything else, if we just help people to invite their family and friends, that's the greatest way we can help to bring new people into a church. And then I discovered as well that unless within a church, that within the first 6 months that a person makes 2 significant friendships or relationships, they won't stay at that church. Because you have to create the personal touch within the life of the church. that we have to personally touch people. We are people that need the personal touch. And this principle, the principle of the personal touch, it needs to affect how we deal with the world, how we deal with ministry, how we deal with, our neighbors, how we deal with people. If people know, they say people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. When you personally reach out into their world, when you touch them, and that's how God reached us. He came out of heaven, He came down to the earth, and He came so that we could touch Him and that He could be touched by us. So the power of the personal touch is something we all need to learn. Till next time, God bless you.